Hey everyone, welcome back to Tan's Top 10 channel. Today's video, we're going to be counting down my top 10 favorite MCU movies of all time. The new show Loki comes out, I think it premieres on Wednesday on Disney+, so I figured now would be a good time to show you guys my favorite MCU movies. And as always, I do have a few honorable mentions. I believe there's 23 MCU movies, so my first honorable mention is going to be Ant-Man. Really like this movie. I've rewatched it a couple times. I've rewatched pretty much all of these movies a bunch of times. MCU is one of my favorite franchises, but Ant-Man, really good movie. Super small scale. Didn't need to be anything big. It's a nice little heist movie, and Paul Rudd is fantastic and adds a lot of comedy to the MCU. My next honorable mention is Spider-Man Far From Home. This is actually the only MCU movie I think that I haven't rewatched. This is the most recent one, which is kind of weird because this movie came out in two years ago. This movie came out, but Spider-Man Far From Home, I really liked it in theaters. I got to rewatch it, especially with the twist at the end. If no spoilers if you haven't seen it, but it's a really good movie. Next honorable mention is Black Panther. A lot of people would probably have this on their top 10 list. I really like Black Panther. I do find it slightly overrated, though. I don't think it deserved Best Picture nomination. Definitely not. But I think it's a really good movie, and I can't wait to see what they do with the second one, especially with the passing of Chadwick Boseman. One that a lot of people probably wouldn't have on their honorable mentions, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. A lot of people don't like this movie, and I don't get it, because this is probably the second funniest MCU movie that I can think of. I laughed my ass off at this. Baby Groot is adorable. I love Kurt Russell, so Kurt Russell in any movie just elevates it that much more. And I'm really excited to see what James Gunn does with Volume 3, plus an awesome soundtrack. And my final honorable mention is going to be Age of Ultron. I know a lot of people don't like this movie. It is probably the lesser of all the Avengers movies, but I still really like this movie. I love Ultron as a villain. I know a lot of people don't. I think he's really funny, really witty, really menacing. I think he should have been a little bit more menacing, actually. But yeah, really good movie, and I love the third act. So yeah, Avengers: Age of Ultron. All right, kicking off the top 10 list at number 10 is going to be Spider-Man Homecoming. I really like this movie. It's basically a John Hughes high school movie from the 80s, but made in modern times with a superhero, Spider-Man. I really like the inclusion of Iron Man in this movie. He's not in it too much. He's just in there a little bit. He's like garlic, just a little tiny bit of him. But I think it really helps this movie. Tom Holland just absolutely kills it as Spider-Man, and Michael Keaton as the Vulture. I'm really glad they didn't kill him off in this movie because I can't wait to see if they bring him back in future movies. But Spider-Man Homecoming, I've rewatched this plenty of times. My fiance really likes that movie as well, so that's number 10. In at number 9 is the original The Avengers. Back in 2012, I saw this movie twice, and I was just blown away by this. This is the movie that kind of got me into the MCU. I would have been like in early high school when this came out, so this just made me love the MCU and fall for all these characters. But it's kind of crazy that this movie actually worked. Some aspects don't really hold up. Captain America's suit definitely does not hold up, but the final battle in this movie is so badass, and Hawkeye should have been treated a little bit better in this movie. But other than that, I really love this movie, and a lot of the comedy still works in it as well. Coming in at number 8, Iron Man, the first Iron Man, the only good Iron Man, I believe. This movie still holds up. This is the kickoff to the MCU. And it's just kind of crazy that this movie is as good as it is, because I believe when they started shooting this movie, they could have either put the budget to a script or to make the Iron Man suit look good. And basically, Jon Favreau, the director, said, let's make the suit look good. So a lot of the dialogue in this movie is improvised. That's crazy, but just because dialogue's so damn good. But I absolutely love this movie. I could rewatch this probably right now. Kind of weird that Terrence Howard, who plays Rhodey in this movie, just kind of weird seeing him in that character since we've had Don Cheadle as him for so long. But yeah, Iron Man, there could have been no better casting than Robert Downey Jr. He thank God they started out with this movie, because if they would have started out with like Thor 1 or The Incredible Hulk, the MCU might have been dead in the water. So Iron Man still holds up, and I love Jeff Bridges as the villain. I think he's really menacing and badass. So Iron Man comes in at number 8. In at number 7, it's probably the funniest MCU movie, Thor Ragnarok. This movie is a blast. So much damn fun, so colorful, looks so goddamn good on 4K. Thank God Taika Waititi came in to basically course correct what they were doing with Thor, because everything they were doing up to this movie was not good. He was kind of just a bland character. This is like a shot of adrenaline into Thor's arm and the MCU in general. Um, I love this movie. I can't wait to see what Taika Waititi does with Thor: Love and Thunder. I believe that's what it's called. Thor 4. I'm going to call it that. And my only main gripe with this is I don't think Kate Blanchett is that great as villain. I don't think Hella. I think that's her name. Hella. I don't think she's a great villain. Other than that, I love this movie. Jeff Goldblum. That just automatically puts it in my top 10. So in at number 6 is probably the most underrated MCU movie, I think. That's Captain America: The First Avenger. When I first saw this movie, I was not the biggest fan of it. I thought it was a little cheesy. Looking back now, I watched this like last year with my fiance. This movie is really, really well made. Like really good direction. I think Chris Evans is fantastic as Captain America. Brings a lot of heart to this role, and I love his chemistry with Haley Atwell as Peggy. They have great chemistry. Tommy Lee Jones, he's so damn good in this movie. But First Avenger, if you haven't watched this in a while, rewatch it because it actually holds up really well. It's pretty damn underrated. And yeah, Red Skull, kind of a meh villain, not too great, but other than that, I love that movie. Coming in at number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie is so fucking fun. Oh my god. A lot of people didn't think this movie would be good because it's got a talking tree, a talking raccoon. Like, oh my god, that's gonna be so stupid. I had no doubt that they wouldn't be able to pull this off, and they pulled it off in spades. This is probably the most surprising MCU movie with how good it is. Everyone in the crew has amazing chemistry. Dave Bautista, I got to rewatch this because I got to see how well Drax holds up in this. Because when I first saw it, I didn't really. He was probably my least favorite character of the group, but he's gotten to be so funny that I got to rewatch and see how he is in this movie. But yeah, this movie is a total blast. So much fun. Basically, if Star Trek and Star Wars had a baby and had a little bit more comedy in them, that would be Guardians of the Galaxy. One of the best soundtracks of all time, no doubt. My only gripe with it, it's going to be a lot of gripes with the MCU, the villain. I think Ronan is a pretty shitty villain, not really compelling. And other than that, this movie's awesome. All right, in at number 4, probably a lot of people would have this maybe at number 1. Avengers Infinity War. I was so damn hyped for this movie. I rewatched the trailer for this movie in college. Oh my god, probably at least like 20 or 30 times the first day that it came out. I was so damn excited. This was one of the most hyped I've ever been for a film, and it paid off pretty well. I do have a few flaws with this movie. One of them, actually, this might be surprising. I think Mark Ruffalo in this movie is not good. If you really focus on Mark Ruffalo's performance in this movie, he's pretty shitty. He's pretty bad. And I usually like him as Hulk, Bruce Banner. I think he's really good, but in this movie in particular, he does not hold up. Probably my biggest flaw, though, is that I kind of had a feeling that Thanos was going to win at the end. He was going to get all the stones. He was going to snap his fingers. I didn't have the movie spoiled with me. I saw this movie like the first showing on a Thursday night with my buddy. Theater was packed. But it just wasn't surprising to me that Thanos won. I was like, they're making a 4th Avengers movie. I'm guessing Thanos is going to win at the end of the 3rd one. And then the 4th one's going to be them kind of figuring out how to undo that. That's what happened. So just wasn't that shocking to me. And Another big flaw for me is that Captain America, who is my favorite Avenger, he's just not in it that much. He doesn't really get a lot of shining moments. This is basically Thanos' movie, which I love. Thanos is badass. He's an awesome villain, really sympathetic. Sympathetic. Um, but yeah, I just think this movie's a little overhyped. If I wouldn't have guessed that Thanos was going to win at the end, maybe I would have been a little more surprised and have this higher. But it's still really good, really well paced movie, and flies by pretty damn fast. Coming in at number 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This movie is probably got some of the best action in the MCU. Probably one of the best superhero action films of all time. The fight choreography in this is spectacular. The stunt work, holy shit. A lot of people talk about the elevator fight with Captain America and all those agents. That's badass. That's a really good fight. But I fucking love and prefer the fight between Captain America and Bucky, where Bucky's got the knife and Cap's got a shield. And that, holy shit, that is just badass. The sound design of that scene, especially when Bucky stabs the van and his knife just like drags across the side of it. If you have a good sound system, whew, that is music to the ears, that scene is. But the rest of this movie is awesome. It's pretty dark. It takes the MCU in some dark territory. I love that. And yeah, this is probably one of the more rewatchable MCU movies for me. I love the inclusion of Falcon. Falcon is really cool. And Black Widow really gets fleshed out in here as well. So yeah, Winter Soldier, that is the Russo brothers' first MCU movie, and they kicked it off with a hell of a start. Coming in at number 2 is Captain America: Civil War. I think this movie is so underrated. A lot of people would have this maybe towards the middle or towards the end of their top 10 MCU movies, or maybe not on it at all. I can't believe that. This has some of the best action of the MCU. It's got some of the deepest emotion and the conflict in this film. You really feel for these characters, and you don't want to side with Team Cap or Team Iron Man because you want both of them to win. I was actually pretty nervous going into this movie because the Russo brothers, they kicked ass with Winter Soldier, but them taking on all these characters, there's so many damn characters in this movie, it's basically Avengers 2.5. And I'm like, how are these guys going to be able to handle that many characters and flesh them out and give them good motivations? You feel everyone's motivation in this movie. Everyone, when they take sides, you're like, yep, I understand that. That's all this movie had to, or that was the most important thing this movie had to do. And they pulled it off big time, unlike Batman v Superman. But we won't talk about that. But as much as people want to talk about the airport fight scene in this movie, which is badass, kicks a lot of ass, it's amazing. I think the end fight between Captain America and Bucky versus Iron Man, that's probably my favorite fight scene in the MCU. It's amazing, and the choreography of that fight is awesome, but it's the emotion that's underneath it that really, really elevates that fight scene. So, Civil War, I think, is so damn underrated. I think it's actually like a perfect film. I don't think there's a wasted moment in this movie. And I even love the villain of Zemo. I think he's got great motivation. He's really sympathetic, and say what you want about the other villains, but he's kind of the only one who wins in the entire franchise. So he tore the Avengers apart. So props to him. But of course, my number 1 MCU movie, you guys probably figured it out. It is Avengers Endgame. What can I say about this movie that I haven't said, other people haven't said? This is my favorite movie theater going experience of all time. I saw this opening night, the earliest showing they had at that theater. It was packed. It was incredible. They did some trivia before the showing. That was awesome. And then just sitting there, I think I went to the bathroom like 5 times during the previews because I'm like, this is a 3-hour long movie and I cannot miss a second. I did end up going to the bathroom once, but I think it was during the second act, right before they started time traveling, so it was okay. But I remember sitting in theater with my 2 buddies, and the moment that Captain America, you see the hammer, you see Mjolnir, and you see it start to move, I started like pushing, shoving my buddy, like getting him all hyped up because I'm like, that's Cap. Cap's picking it up and sure shit. And then everything from when you got Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor versus Thanos, and it's down to just Captain America versus Thanos. My fucking heart was pumping so hard. I don't think it's ever pumped that hard in my entire life. I thought I was about to have an anxiety attack, but I was like, fuck, they're going to kill Cap right here. I kind of figured they'd kill Cap. Didn't happen. Thank God. Whew. But that was intense. Just the entire third act of this movie, it's incredible. It's movie magic. I think so. It's one of the best movie moments of all time. Just being there in the theater is basically like a sporting event. Everyone's cheering, everyone's standing up, clapping, crying. It's amazing. You just had to be there. If you saw this on fucking Disney Plus for the first time at home, I feel sorry for you. That's not how this film should have been seen. It should have been in a theater, packed with people who are fans of this franchise. So, yep. And of course, at the end, I always cry. Fucking Tony's death it just gets me. I cannot watch this movie without tearing up at the end. But yeah, Avengers Endgame. The reason this is higher up on the list at number 1 or Endgame, Infinity War is at number 4 is everything that happened in this movie I was not expecting. I was not expecting them to time travel back to previous movies. I figured they would time travel back, but I didn't think it would be to previous movies. That was incredible. I wasn't expecting a big final battle between all the Avengers against Thanos. I thought it was just going to be a smaller, more personal battle between Iron Man, Captain America, Thor versus Thanos. That's how I thought this was going to end. And I just thought it was going to be smaller scaled, more personal. So just the fact that they went balls out, brought everyone back. Fucking Robert Redford is in this movie. That's incredible. So that, I really don't have many negatives with this movie, if any at all. I think this movie is incredible. It's one of my favorite films of all time. And it is the king of the MCU movies for me. Number 1, Avengers Endgame. And I doubt that it'll ever get topped. Well, guys, that's my top 10 favorite MCU movies. Comment down below your favorite MCU movies. If you want to rank your top 10 list, do that down below. I always read my comments. I always comment on them, like them. I always look at them. So please share down below. I would greatly appreciate it. Please like and share this video with your friends. If you have anyone that loves the MCU, show them this video. Compare lists. Everyone's list is going to be different. Just remember that, guys, okay? This is my personal list. If there was a movie on here that wasn't on here that would be in your top 10, I'm sorry, that's your top 10. This is mine. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.